Hello, friends. It's me, Doris. I'm glad to be with you again. And today I want to talk about immigration. And I brought my friend, Reverend Paul Fleck, along to talk with us. So, as you might know, he is the Executive Director for Immigration Law and Justice, New York. So, Paul, it's great to have you with me today.
Thank you, Rev.Dalton. I appreciate it.
Great. One of the first questions I want to ask you is a general one that I think everyone is asking. Why does immigration matter to United Methodists?
Well, our founder, John Wesley, said it best when he said that there is no holiness but social holiness.
Right.
And certainly, we are a denomination that has engaged the world on important issues of social justice before.
Right.
During John Wesley's tenure, it was the issue of slavery, which he opposed. And certainly in our era, it's the question of immigration justice that drives me and drives my interest in it. Um, the scriptures are replete with references
Right.
to treat the stranger, the alien, the immigrant among us as we would treat the citizen among us. And
Right.
the scripture in Leviticus remind us that we were once immigrants in the land of Egypt.
Right.
Matthew 25, Jesus says, "I was a stranger and you welcomed me." And in Hebrews, Paul says, "Do not neglect to show hospitality to strangers, for by doing so, some have entertained angels without knowing it."
Right. Right. I I loved hearing you say that you've been so passionate about immigration for such a long time. Can you tell me how you got involved in immigration justice?
It goes back to maybe even junior high when we had social studies classes on the Latin American continent and the issues around migration that took place. We talked about it in high school, in my Spanish class. We talked about it in my classes in college when I went on to become a Latin American studies and political science major. I never knew that I would fall into this type of ministry, but it just so happens that my career path has led me here.
Right. And it obviously God has called you to do this work, right? As God calls all of us to care about the stranger and the poor. So let me ask this question. Why does immigration matter to local churches?
Well, not only is it baked into our DNA, this ethos of welcome, and we should be very cognizant of that as
Mhm.
we reach out to the community. Ours is not to be a homogeneous church. Ours is meant to be a very diverse church that welcomes all. So the scriptures and certainly our theology emphasize that all individuals are of sacred worth, and that includes the immigrant.
Right. So what can we as United Methodists, what can we do about immigration? It's such a big, complex concern.
I think listening is one of the ways it starts. Certainly, I thought I had all the answers when I first entered into the question of immigration. I thought certainly immigration reform will solve all the problems.
Right.
And so we convened a big group of immigrants at my church in New Milford to talk about it. And the organizer there said, "What is it that you really want?" And the room was silent, and we thought it was immigration reform, and it wasn't that. One man raised his hand and said, "I want a driver's license so I can take my kid to school."
Wow.
And that
Yeah.
really sparked my imagination and my understanding of how we ought to be treating this issue, not as one of imposing our own view, but one of listening deeply to the immigrant community and what their needs are.
That is so powerful. So I want to listen to some stories now. I mean, you've sparked my interest, and I'm sure you want to hear some more too. Could you tell me a few short stories about how immigration justice has impacted people, or specifically how immigration law and justice in New York, how the ministry there has impacted people?
Well, asylum, for example, is one of the most difficult types of cases to pursue. And we represented an individual named Darwin who was persecuted as a result of his Pentecostal faith. And he was confronted by the gangs. They tried to shake him down, they tried to extort money from him and his family. And he told them, "I believe in God and not a gun."
Wow.
And that began even further persecution. The police who were on the take in that community,
Wow.
um, turned the other way, and, as a result, he came to the United States. and he sought asylum, and he obtained it for him and his beneficiary family.
Wow, that's so amazing. Giving him the opportunity, I hope, to be able to worship God, in freedom and also for his family to feel safe. And wonderful. Yeah. So, is there another story you'd like to share?
Sure, I would like to share the story of Rosa. Rosa was a Garifuna woman in Honduras, and Garifunas are an Afro-Indigenous community, and she was persecuted as a result of her ethnicity.
Wow.
Um, her own father, her stepfather, would force her to eat food from the floor like a dog, and it was just incredibly difficult for her and even the rest of the Garifuna community in Honduras, which is horribly persecuted. She left that country and came to the United States, and we again represented her in her immigration case successfully, and now she's on her way.
Wow. Amazing. Amazing. Where can you tell me, and I love that, I love these stories. Can you tell me where, does, Immigration Law and Justice do their work in our conference?
We do it in houses of worship, and the reason we do it in houses of worship is because, again, it's that ethos of welcome that's baked into what we ought to be doing. It's mutually transformative for not just the immigrants who get to receive an immigration benefit, but the volunteers who get to appreciate and see Christ in the migrant amongst them. They get to do hospitality, like provide food. They get to provide childcare. They get to do intake. They get to provide translation.
Wow.
There are so many opportunities to intersect with the immigrant community, and they get that opportunity at our clinics where we do these pop-up clinics in houses of worship, intake the clients, and then work up their cases back at our offices.
Amazing. Where are those houses of worship in our conference?
Sure, they're at Chinese United Methodist Church in Chinatown. That's probably one of the most robust clinics, and we get to eat dumplings afterwards.
Yum.
And, then there's First United Methodist Church in Flushing. We definitely need volunteers there.
Oh, okay.
There is John Wesley United Methodist Church in Bedford-Stuyvesant, Brooklyn, and then there's Hicksville United Methodist Church on Long Island.
So, I hear you say that there's always a need for volunteers with Immigration Law and Justice New York. Is there another way for somebody to also support or be engaged in this ministry?
There are other intersections. We need help with communications, writing client stories. We like to put those stories on our website or at least, or introduce them in a newsletter. Um, there are so many ways to intersect, and we welcome different and creative ways to do that.
And if somebody wanted to know more, do they just visit the website or contact ILJ New York?
There's a contact us form on the website, iljny.org,
There you go.
and, again, we would welcome to hear from you.
Oh, wonderful. This has been a really wonderful conversation. Last question. What is the big takeaway that you want everyone to know about immigration?
The big takeaway is that these folks are people struggling just like we are, with meaning, with, certainly financially, certainly in terms of what they've left behind. And I think we need to sensitize ourselves to that. So much of the rhetoric desensitizes us to the fact that these are human beings who have the same struggles we do and have some of the same dreams we do. Um, Certainly, I think we would want to learn about them and welcome them in our midst.
And most importantly, I love what you said earlier, to listen to their stories. Thank you so much, Paul. I've had a wonderful time talking with you. Thanks,
Likewise.
friends. I'll see you again soon.